I have like 7 mosquito bites everywhere, including my face, twice. But I'm still gonna record this video. Hi everyone, my name is Sara. I'm an architectural assistant in Wrocław, Poland, and today I'll be doing a little Q&A with the questions that I got on Instagram. If you want to follow me or ask more questions, then here it is. And we're gonna go straight into the questions. First question is cost of living in Wrocław, Copenhagen, and Stockholm. Now, if you don't know, I studied in Sweden and Northern Ireland and then did an internship in Denmark, and now I'm working full-time in Poland. So if I were to answer this question and look at cost of living for all three, I feel like it varies a lot and a lot of factors to take in consideration. So first of all, Belfast, I feel like was expensive for me just because I was a student. I was supported partly by my parents and part by the part-time jobs I was doing, and all the income that I was having to spend in Northern Ireland was in a different currency, which made things a bit more complex, and I definitely learned how to do budgeting. Then in Stockholm, I started earning through part-time jobs in the same currency and wages as the country I'm in, so there was definitely a more of a equal sort of experience in a sense that it was more comfortable. But then in Copenhagen, I was earning in Danish crowns. However, I was doing an internship, so that pay was very low. So it was also kind of like a very budget living experience. So if I were to compare all three, I feel like, to me, Copenhagen was the most expensive. I think it's just like a plain fact that Denmark is quite an expensive country. And whether it is going to a cafe, going to any museum, it was pricey. And the rent, don't even get me started. Second place, I would say, would be, through my experience, Belfast, just because I was living in student accommodation, which to me was expensive, and also I wasn't earning much, so I didn't really have any money to spend. I wanted to say paycheck to paycheck, but I had no paycheck. So it was literally bare minimum. So I would say that cost of living for Belfast was pretty high, so that's the second place. And then I would say Stockholm on the third place, just because once you start earning in the same currency as the city slash country that you're in, it kind of gets a little easier just because those wages usually match the kind of price ranges that you need for just day-to-day life. Now in Wrocław, again, this is a beginner role. I am an architectural assistant, which is kind of at the bottom of the food chain at the moment, but it is definitely very livable. So I would say Wrocław and Stockholm, oddly enough, would be kind of similar through my experience. I don't know if that answers the question, but I feel like cost of living is a difficult thing to rank if the income is from different places and how much is your budget, do you know what I mean? But yeah, I would say that's my ranking. Definitely Denmark at the very top, super expensive. Next question is, what are my responsibilities in my current job? So as I mentioned, I'm an architectural assistant, part 2 in the RIBA system. And what that means is that I have my master's completed, because if it is RIBA part 1 as architectural assistant, that means that you've only got your bachelor's. So I'm part 2. And what I do is kind of what the job title describes. I'm assisting, helping out. So every day, kind of every month kind of varies. I've been doing, for example, site analysis, which means that before a project gets even built or designed, you kind of analyze what the area is like, what the context is like. And I was doing, for example, analysis of what the heights of the buildings are in the neighborhood, so that you can see a kind of medium of where and how high we can go to match the skyline. And then I was also doing use maps, or ground floor use maps, which basically means that I was going on literal Google Maps and driving around virtually and making a key to the area and context of the future building, what those buildings next to it are being used for, whether they're commercial, whether they're offices, or maybe they're restaurants. So I was literally mapping what the area is like and what's the majority. Is it housing? Is it retail? And so on. So it was a lot of analysis and mapping. And at the start, I also did quite a few master plans. So that would be when a general shape of a building is already picked. And then we want to speak to the client and speak to the council, for example, and we have to explain a really complex project in a simple way. So we basically show it from like a satellite view, like a very far out bird's eye view of what we're planning to do. I was basically working in Photoshop and Illustrator, where I would just add layers and layers of context, whether that's trees, buildings, and just making it pretty, essentially. Now that a few months have passed and I'm, a bit more engaged into the project, and I've been assigned to a long-term project, which means that I'll be helping develop floor plans and elevations, so kind of more of the design phase at the moment. And I think it's worth noting that in my architectural role, I'm actually in the sort of front-end design team, which basically means it's more of a concept building team, which is quite exciting. And I think I've learned quite a lot. We work mostly in Revit, so I'm, my Revit skills are going up. It's a 3D modeling program. And yeah, I was super scared at the start, but now it's fine. I'm definitely not an expert, but it's okay. But yeah, long story short, I help the architects out. So whenever they have to double check something or have something produced, or there's little tasks along the day that I can help them with, that's what I do. A lot of visuals, a lot of ideation, and a lot of work that other people don't want to do. So for example, there's a task that repeats a lot, like when you're building a floor plan and it's a high rise, so it's basically the same floor plan like 6 or 7 times. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. Okay, another question is, what's my current favorite project in the office? And to be honest, I don't know if I have an answer for that, because I always get assigned like one project at a time, and we're working mostly in housing and in high-rise housing. So I feel like any project that I'm given is kind of my favorite in a way, because I just get to learn and develop all these different skills. And yeah, I mean, currently working on a high-rise in London, quite fun, quite exciting, but it's a lot of work in a sense that it is a lot of repetitive design work in Revit, basically. But yeah, I cannot, share too much because it's hush hush, but yeah, that's kind of, I guess, my favorite project at the moment. I feel like a lot of projects are just interesting to learn the context of the city. So I feel like my favorite aspect of these projects that I get to do is actually learning about London, because I start to have like a mental map of where the different boroughs are and like what the area is like. Okay, this is a good one. What's the best and worst thing about being back in Poland? I think the best thing, and this is like honestly the first thing that comes to mind, the best part about being back in Poland is that I can have Polish food, and it's not even like store-bought. Like I can go to a so-called milk bar. I don't even know if that concept is anywhere else apart from like Eastern Europe, but I would go to a milk bar and they have every dish that I have been craving for the past 7 years when I was abroad. Literally the best thing, that I can go around the corner from my office and go to like a pierogi restaurant. Are you kidding? Like, it's the little things. And also just going to a supermarket and just having all of like your comfort food just there, I think it's quite a silly answer, but I genuinely think that's the best, because I would say, hey, I'm closer to my family, I'm closer to my friends, but no. Even though I'm in the same country, I'm in the different city from everyone else. Literally, none of my friends live in Wrocław. So, of course, I'm a little closer, but I think the best part is definitely the food. Now, the worst part, honestly, I'm giving this real thought. Like, this is my real answer right now, you guys. I think the worst part must be that I'm earning less than the same role, for example, in the UK or the same role in Sweden. Like, I know that I have the same skills, I know that I have the same background in, you know, in university, that I have the degrees, I have everything, but I'm earning less. That kind of hurts. I think that's the worst. Because if I were earning in like Swedish currency or UK currency, then I don't think that would be the worst. But currently, I'm gonna be so honest, it's the money. Another question here is, do you plan on staying longer in Poland? I don't have an answer for this. I don't, because I know that I'm just taking things as they come, and we'll just see. We'll see. Because I never thought I would be in Poland at this stage in my life. So I guess never say never. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So I guess I don't have an answer. I think I'm enjoying my time here, and I think it's a great, you know, opportunity to be working in the company that I am. You know, like, I'm actually very grateful to be in Poland and have that sort of comfort of knowing the language, knowing how things work. So I didn't have much of a culture shock this time. You know, after the 7 times that I moved, at least this time is all culture shock. But yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I know that I have this job for the next year, so that's the kind of time frame I'm working with right now. Someone asked, like, what's the most unexpected aspect of it all? I think the most unexpected thing is I'm here. That I'm actually in Poland. That's the most surprising part to me. It's been like 3.5 months and I'm still shook. Life will take you places, for real, because I thought that I'll just like maybe eventually move back, or maybe not at all. But, you know, opportunities, perspectives present themselves, and you just gotta take it when it does. So I think that's the most unexpected part. But the second unexpected part is that I am able to work in the UK system and design for like British architects and still be in the RIBA system, which basically means that I can still use my experience I'm doing right now in qualifications towards my architecture license in a way in the UK, which I didn't know that I would be able to do, because I kind of gave up on that some time ago, because I was like, well, none of my experience abroad will count for this, but turns out they can. So I think that's kind of a positive surprise. And another thing that surprised me is probably how much I love Wrocław, because I had no expectations, and Wrocław is beautiful. Like, I arrived, I was like, hold on, why is everyone gatekeeping Wrocław? Because this city is actually stunning, and there's so many things to do, and there's so many beautiful buildings, and it's just like such a whole vibe. And no one told me, or rather, they only told me when I moved, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're gonna love Wrocław. I was like, huh? What? I was like, what do you mean? You haven't told me about this city my whole life. But yeah, so I think that's really unexpected. And I think that's about it from these questions. Thank you so much for asking them. I am very grateful for everyone that chipped in, and I'll see you next time. If you have any more questions, whether it is about becoming an architect, living in Poland, living in Wrocław, if you have any questions about living abroad in general, or any video ideas, literally send them my way. Send me all the video ideas, because believe me, I will need inspiration. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, maybe subscribe. Maybe subscribe. Maybe subscribe. All right, bye.